Hello, this is Laura Wogzogen, and this is a brief introduction to our first project, which is on textbook cost. And so if you go into Canvas, you will see all of the different material that's posted for Project 1. There is this document as a Word document and then also as a PDF. Also, there is going to be a partial example that uses different data. It happens to be about car prices, but just to kind of get an idea of what screenshots look like and how to set things up. There's also a module that is just on StatDisk, and that's the program that we will be using. This course is required to have a computer program portion. And so for us, we will be using a free program, which is called StatDisk. And so we have college textbook prices have more than doubled in the last 2 decades, according to Consumer Price Index. And the average student budget for books and supplies at a 4-year public institute is about $1,240. According to the College Board, that in 2016, they estimate $3.15 billion in local, state, and federal student financial aid is spent annually on textbooks. The Affordable College Textbook Act would reduce the cost of textbooks in the U.S. colleges and universities by expanding the use of open textbooks. These would be our free and like our MyOpen Math or StatDisk, which is also free, and other open educational resources that everyone can download, edit, and share freely to benefit students. The legislation was introduced in the 118th Congress on March 27th, 2023 to the Senate. So this project explores the cost of textbooks at Mount SAC for fall 2024 semester. The table below contains prices of 15 required textbooks for randomly selected classes at Mount SAC. The prices given are in Table A. You'll notice that's listed right here. And is for buying, not renting, new textbooks or ebooks if there isn't a hard copy textbook option available. So again, this is for buying and not renting, and this is for new textbooks or ebooks if, again, that option to buy a hard book is not given. And so all the data is listed on here for the class and the cost of the textbooks in US dollars. And so I just randomly selected classes when I went onto the Mount SAC website for the bookstore. So using the data provided above in Table A, complete the textbook cost project. The points for each part are listed, and the total points that can be earned are 45. So this is going to be an individual project, and each student will submit their own project solution. The project needs to be typed, so make sure it's typed. Each part needs to be correctly labeled and completed in order. So make sure you do number 1, followed by 2, followed by 3, followed by 4, and so on. Explanations and work should be completed using the same methods covered in our chapter notes and that are in the textbook. And StatDisk needs to be used. This is a computer program that is, again, free. The website is listed here. It's www.statdisk.com. Distributions, which again are tables, can be created either in Excel, a Google Sheet, StatDisk, or Word. And then you'll notice on here it says parts 2, 3, and 4 must have screenshots of the output from StatDisk. No points are rewarded if you use a graphing calculator for these parts. The screenshot should be legible and inserted into the project for the correct question number. You also must provide and clearly state the specific answer. So StatDisk will usually round a number maybe to 6 decimal places, and for your project, it's going to ask you guys to round for a specific number to 3 decimal places. So make sure underneath that screenshot, you type out the answer and round it correctly to 3 decimal places. It says explanations need to be written in complete sentences. Show work for all calculations. And so this would be something like a z-score or for outliers. Answers must be rounded to 3 decimal places. And the objective here is to get used to working with that statistical computer program. This is our first project, so I gave us a small data set. We will, for the following projects, be using a much larger data set. And like our graphing calculators are great for a small data set like this. However, when we get into thousands and even more than that values, the graphing calculator isn't able to handle that type of data. So we do need to get used to using a statistical computer program. And so again, this is our first project, starting off with a small data set, just kind of getting us used to using this program called StatDisk. So number 1 says to create a grouped frequency distribution of the data in table A with a class width of $25 and a starting value of $30. A good example to look at is going to be in your notes. We do an example that has to deal with soccer player weights and grouping that data. So that's a good place to look for some extra help. You'll also notice that after this, it does say 7 points. So for this part, correctly done, you would be rewarded 7 points. Again, remember that with frequencies, you label those columns. So make sure you put down what it is exactly that we're talking about. And then also you make sure that this is typed. And again, you can use Excel, you can use Microsoft Word, you can use any of the Google Sheets or Google Docs. You could also type it in StatDisk. So that's our first one. For number 2, it says create a histogram of your grouped frequency data in part 1. And it does say to use StatDisk for this. Again, 7 points are rewarded. To access our StatDisk online, this is on a tablet, but it works on your phone, on a tablet, or on a computer. And you're going to go to www.statdisk.com. And all 3 of those are going to look just a slight bit different. So the first thing that pops up are the different textbooks that we have. You can just X out of that. And you'll notice that we have different drop downs on here. And so just clicking on resampling, on data, we have a bunch of different things, and then data sets, which we'll be using for our other projects that we have. But on this project, on project number 1, the first thing that it asks you to do is to do a histogram. And if you notice, I don't have any of my data typed in on StatDisk right now. So you would have to enter in all those textbook costs, all 15 of them. And then if you go to histogram, you'll notice that you're able to change the label, what you want to label X, what you would like to label for Y. And then it also has a drop down here to select which column the data is in. And for you, it's probably going to be in column number 1. I don't have any data in here right now, but on your own, you need to enter in those numbers. And then you'll also notice that it does have a class width value to type in and class starting value. Once you have that, you would hit plot and it would create that for you. For number 3, it says find the descriptive statistics of your raw data in table A. This includes our sample mean. So we need our sample mean of the cost of the textbooks in dollars, the sample standard deviation, and then also the 5-number summary, all for the cost in dollars for those 15 textbooks. Make sure to state answers and round correctly to 3 decimal places. For this one, also, you need to make sure that you're using StatDisk. The next thing that we need to complete on StatDisk would be those descriptive statistics, so meaning our sample mean or sample standard deviation, and also our 5-number summary. So selecting data, you will notice that you do have an option that says Explore Data Descriptive Statistics. So selecting this from here, wherever you had your data typed in, again, might be column 1, you would just hit select and select that column and then go ahead and select Evaluate, and it will calculate all those values for you. Number 4 says to create a box plot of the raw data in table A. So using that data, and you're going to be typing that into StatDisk. Do not include fences and do not make it a modified box plot. And again, for this one, we are using StatDisk. The next thing that we have to complete with StatDisk is going to be our box plot. And again, going to data with that drop down, you'll notice that underneath histogram, it does say box plot. So selecting box plot, you'll notice that it does say which column of data would you like to plot. And again, depending on where you type in your data, which would probably be column 1, those 15 values, you would go ahead and select that. And it does say on the directions not to do a modify box plot. So you want to make sure you select that first option that just says box plot. Number 5 says to describe the shape of the distribution for part 4. So that's talking about the one above and explaining, is it skewed left or skewed right? And then we also have use complete sentences and wording from our class and from our textbook, and clearly explain your reasoning. Why is it skewed right, or why is it skewed left, or why is it symmetric or bell-shaped? For number 6, it says determine if there are any outliers. Make sure you show all your work for this. If any outliers exist, clearly show work and state the outliers and why they are considered an outlier. If no outlier exists, clearly show work and explain why none exist. Make sure you show all your work for credit. You can type your work, or you can handwrite it out and insert an image of that into the project for this specific part for number 6. Number 7 says find a different course and textbook at the Mount SAC bookstore. And that has a link there. So if you open up the project, or you can just go to the website and go to the bookstore where you would have ordered any textbooks you needed for class, and find a class and a textbook that is not listed on our table, and record the name of the class and the cost of buying the new textbook or ebook if no paper textbook, no physical textbook is available. So again, it needs to be a new textbook. And again, we're looking at Mount SAC, a specific course at Mount SAC, not a different college. And it says during the fall 2024 semester, so that's going to be right now. So you guys are able to go on the bookstore and find another course and find a book that and the cost for that new textbook. So do not select a course with a free textbook. Make sure it's one that you have to pay for. Include a screenshot. So we are going to include a screenshot of the course and the cost for Mount SAC's bookstore. This is just for 1 point. Here is what I downloaded when I was doing the selection for courses. And let's just go ahead and look at this one, which is for Japanese. You'll notice that you can either rent or buy the textbook. And again, I would like for you guys to select buying it. I also would like for it to be for the new option, so the $82 here. So make sure you include a screenshot of the course and the cost from the Mount SAC bookstore. So number 8 says find the z-score for your new textbook stated in part 7 using the sample mean and the sample standard deviation from up above. And so with this, remember that your z-score formula is going to be your value that you cost for that book that you selected minus the mean or sample mean divided by the sample standard deviation. And again, you have X bar and S up above. And then number 9 says determine if the textbook you selected in part 7 is significantly low, significantly high, or not significant. Make sure to use complete sentences and clearly show your work and clearly explain your reasoning. So if you figure out that your textbook is significantly low, show all calculations you are using to get to that, and also explain why it is significantly low. For this, you have a lot of places to go to get help. One of the biggest issues that I see is that students procrastinate the project. Remember, you have almost a month to get this done and submit it. So for you, I want you guys to get an early start on this. Easiest thing to do is just open up StatDisk and start by typing in all these values. And then the other thing is going to be is that make sure you reach out and ask for help when you need help, either to me for office hours or at the marks. Good luck.